Hey book lovers, hope you had a great Christmas and I wish all of you a great 2019. All of us have a few favorite books or authors that we keep going back to again and again because we feel that gives us something special. Here is one such book for me, a book called Origins by Neil deGrasse Tyson and Donald Goldsmith. So this book is a book on science, of course, but still it is our story. It is a human story, and the way it straddles both these worlds is what made this book very interesting for me. As I was reading this book over the Christmas vacation, I reminisced about my college days and how we used to discuss books, and realized that discussing the book was an integral and essential part of reading the book. The reading was not complete till it was discussed and new viewpoints were understood, new nuances were seen. And I thought, why not do this with a larger world out there with all the book lovers rather than a few friends that I can meet or talk over phone. That's the genesis of this effort. I am not a professional précis writer or a speaker, so this clip will have many flaws. But I hope the quality of this book will compensate for all those flaws. If you like this book, if you like this clip and it gives you some interest into reading this book, I would welcome you to give me your comments, your suggestions, your recommendations, and also subscribe to my channel so that I can build this into a regular affair, bringing out more and more books for your review. So, without further ado, let us jump into the book. The first question naturally is why this book? And instead of wasting words, I will simply read out what Professor Michio Kaku says. Who can ask for better cosmic tour guides to the universe than Dr. Tyson and Goldsmith? Well, there you have it. And the authors say they dedicate this book to all those who look up and to all those who do not yet know why they should. And this resonated a lot with me. I'm not a scientist, and this book allowed me to understand how life began, what are the ingredients that led to life, and what are still a whole lot of very important and profound questions that we do not have answers for, but why it is worth keep searching for those answers. That's what this book teaches me, and that's why I have a special place for this book. Let us look at the structure of this book. The book is in 5 parts. Imagine them as 5 concentric circles. The outermost circle is the universe itself, and the authors use this part to put some key concepts in front of us, like light, dark, antimatter, the delicate dance of matter and antimatter, and why it is essential for our life. And finally, they pose a question to us. Do we live in a universe or a multiverse? Then we move to the next line, the galaxy, and the authors tell us that it is just about last 250 or 400 years that we really started seeing our galaxy after Galileo and Herschel made the pioneering efforts of building telescope, and we really started seeing what is out there. Then they introduce us to the stars, how the gas and dust comes together, how do they fall into a rhythm, and how that started creating conditions. At this time, they introduce us to the elemental zoo or the periodic table, what many consider to be the zenith of human mind or human accomplishment. From there, we move to the planets. Planets are nothing but the fans of stars. And some of those fans have their own fans too, that we call the moons or the satellites. And we know that the universe, the galaxy, the stars, the planets, they all had a very, very violent past, annihilating many, many billions over last 10 billion years. But finally, they all fell into a rhythm. And that always reminds me of the metaphor that we talk about in project management. When we say that we are trying to form a new project team, We say that it goes through 4 stages: storming, forming, norming, and performing. So, to begin with, there are just storms, arguments, quarrels, disagreements, trying to steal each other's areas of work or lunch, so to say. But slowly we start seeing the merits of each other. Slowly we start seeing what each one of us brings to the table. And we start normalizing our relationships. We start forming a relationship and a team. And finally we start performing. I think the universe has gone through the same 4 stages, except that we are a lot smarter. Universe took about 10 billion years to figure this out. We do it in about a week when we start a new project. So let's go to the book and see how it begins. It begins with a quote from Lucretius, a Roman poet, who says, back then, the world has persisted many a long year. So he is able to see that it has been around for quite some time. Having once been set going in the appropriate motions, from these everything follows. And this is what amazes me with these poets from many cultures over many millennia, how they are able to see some of things that our science is telling us today. And the beauty of the book lies in the authors stating such things, and probably in the same paragraph talking about things like the earth, the universe was 10 raised to 40 hot after 10 raised to minus 43 seconds after Big Bang. So it's a juxtaposition of these things, the poetry, the philosophy, and the scientific terms. That is what makes this book very interesting. And when we start going into the first part, the authors, like we said earlier, cover a lot of ground. They tell us about matter and antimatter, their dance, light, dark energy, gravity, black holes. All these things to some extent in a lot of scientific detail, some others at a high level. But they essentially lay a foundation for us to be able to appreciate the rest of the book. The authors claim that in the beginning there was physics. I don't know about that because I have a chemist friend who said that in the beginning there was chemistry. So let us see if this book can make the decision for us. The authors acknowledge a lot many scientists, specifically Newton and Einstein, whom they call as the most brilliant minds of their centuries. And they say they are awaiting the third in a row to resolve some of the major queries that we have today, such as the ever-expanding universe, such as the multiverse or the dark energy side of it that we don't know much about. So we are waiting for someone. That takes us to the second part, the galaxies and the structures. And like we saw earlier, we have known about galaxies for a long time. I think the first human being, when he looked up, he saw a galaxy. But it was more out of fear, uncertainty, doubt, a lot of things that gave rise to religions and belief systems over the millennia. But the author says that it's just about last 300, 400 years that we actually are seeing the galaxy at a close range, and that has really started our learning. But this learning, this science has never been easy. The kings and the clergies have been very, very wary of these so-called detractors and have taken stern measures to put them down whenever they could. But they could kill some people, but they could not kill what they found out, and that has grown into a science, and that is what brings us here today. Next to that, we see a lot of great photographs taken from Hubble telescope and other great tools about the spirals, the ellipticals, and the irregular galaxies. And I remember a particularly pithy observation the authors make. They say that astronomers say that 99% of their galaxies have been put into the categories, and then they say with a wry humor that with irregular as a category, it's a slam dunk that everything fits, right? So that brings us to the inner circle, the origin of stars. Again, they go back to Galileo. Again, a brilliant statement by Galileo. It's worth reading it. Galileo, after making his spyglass and seeing the Milky Way at close range, says that the Milky Way itself, which with the aid of spyglass may be observed so well that all the disputes of so many generations by vexed philosophers simply go away and we are liberated from wordy arguments. The galaxy is nothing more than congeries of innumerable stars distributed in clusters, and very many appear large and conspicuous, but a multitude of small ones too. Well, that kind of settles the argument, doesn't it? That takes us to the elemental zoo, the crowning glory of human achievement to many people, the periodic table, where one sheet of paper explains everything that the elements in this universe are about, how they are made, how they behave, how they combine, and how they act and react. So we walk through this chemical journey of this universe. We see all the important processes that brought us here. That takes us to the fourth layer, the planets. While we know that mayhem was the order for a long time, now we see a much better order in the universe. And this penultimate round, a new category of gas and dust that is not on fire, that is predictably orbiting a star, keeping the right distance so that it doesn't crash and burn, so that it doesn't sling away. These are the planets that really finally create the condition for the final circle of this book, and that's life itself, the most mysterious and the most intimate of all. DNA and RNA, carbon-based life forms, criteria for life, a lot of discussion on these topics, and then the authors pose us a very profound question. How does a collection of molecules, even if one primed for life to appear, ever generate life itself? This is the hardest question, and you can't ignore it too. But it's so hard that taking refuge in a belief system is easier for most people than trying to grapple with this question. After 300 pages of science, the authors choose Edwin Hubble's beautiful quote that puts science itself in a great perspective for us. Science is not about laboratories, science is not about white coats, science is not about any other thing. Edwin Hubble himself says that science, equipped with his five senses, man explores the universe around him and calls the adventure science. So it's all about just adventure to find out who we are and where we come from. And with this, the authors state that what you have discovered, the poets have discovered long ago. This is the humbleness, the humility of the writers. And they quote T.S. Eliot to close the book. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be arrive there where we started and know the place for the first time. So all our exploration will tell us that we are at the right place, but what that place is. Reminds me of a proverb: what a poet sees, the sun does not. Maybe our sun can see only our solar system, but we, our scientists, who are essentially poets of a different hue, see far more than our sun does, don't they? Do find time to read this book, Origins by Neil deGrasse and Donald Goldsmith, and look forward to your comments. Thank you and have a great day.